Okay, welcome back to you guys. We're going to move into this topic of learning breathing mindfulness meditation. This is going to help you to be able to be more informed about your meditation practice so that you can accomplish more out of your meditation. Now that you know the Eightfold Path, you understand that meditation is part of that. You wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. It's not possible. You can see the path to enlightenment is much more than in meditation. Sometimes people think the Buddha sat under a tree and meditated and instantly got to enlightenment. You guys saw from the Eightfold Path, that's not true. There's much more to meditate. There's much more to getting to enlightenment than just meditation. But you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. You're going to need that to be part of your practice. So we're going to go in and I'm going to teach you the ins and outs of meditation. And just like always, you're welcome to ask any and all questions here at the temple, or anyone joining us online. You can ask your questions through Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Put that in the comment section, or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically and ask any and all questions that you like. So just to start us off with a couple of basics, it's important to have a definition of meditation so that when I say the word meditation, you know what it is that I'm talking about, because of impermanence, different people think about meditation in different ways. So whether you think about meditation in this way or not is a choice for you to make, but this is what I'm referring to when I refer to the word meditation. What meditation is it's a active training session where you're dedicated. It's a dedicated, independent, purposeful training session where you're actively training the mind to eliminate certain unwholesome qualities and cultivate wholesome qualities in the mind. And you're doing this in the positions of seated, lying, standing, or walking. So it's a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and cultivating certain wholesome qualities. And there's 4 positions: seated, lying, standing, and walking. Because you can't be in the same position permanently. It's just not possible. Because of the universal truth of impermanence, you're going to need different positions at different times. What meditation is not, it is not exercising, walking the dog, gardening, or driving. And I point this out because sometimes I hear people say, hey, honey, I'm going to go walk the dog and meditate. Or, hey, I'm going to go take a drive and meditate. Well, if you did those things and you thought you were meditating, then you wouldn't actually be doing what the Buddha is teaching you, and you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment. So when you hear me recommend 2 or 3 meditations a day for 30 minutes or more, well, if you went and walked the dog for 30 minutes 2 or 3 times a day, you're not going to be able to get to enlightenment that way, because that's not meditation. So it's important to know what meditation is, but it's also important to know what it is not. And you may do these things. You might decide to exercise or walk the dog or do any of these other things. And those are things that you might find fulfilling and you might enjoy those things. But just be sure you don't consider those to be meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session. You're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the positions of seated, lying, standing, or walking. In terms of your progression in your meditation practice, you're going to need a meditation teacher. As you guys heard yesterday, there's only one type of individual that would be able to get to enlightenment without any help of teachers or guides. That would be a Buddha. And because you're not a Buddha, you're going to need guidance from a teacher. There's been situations over the years where people have not understood that, and they've tried to make their way to enlightenment without a teacher and a guide, and it didn't turn out well for them at all. I'll just share one example with you so that you kind of understand what I'm talking about here, that you need a meditation teacher. Is that one time there was this individual who was trying for about 2 years on their own to train their mind with meditation and things like this. This individual was a doctor in their home country, a physician, and they were reading books, they were watching YouTube videos, they're doing these different things, and they worked themselves into a really difficult situation. They were having obsessive thoughts, their relationships were falling apart, they were sleeping 23 hours a day, they were having significant sadness or depression. They were having difficulties going to work. They couldn't work any longer as a practicing doctor or a physician. And for one reason or another, this person reached out and asked me for help. And when I started helping them online, I tried for 3 or 4 months, and it just was too strong of a case, too challenging of a case. So I invited the person to come to Thailand and suggested that he would do better off here if he was here training with me. So he came here and he trained for a little bit of time and ultimately went back to his home country. And over the period of about 4 to 6 years total, he was able to work himself out of those challenges and difficulties that he was having, but he needed that help. He needed that guidance. He was off on his own by himself, trying to do this by himself without the wisdom to realize that he couldn't do it by himself. And that's where he ran into all kinds of difficulties and struggles. He's now back practicing medicine. He's not sleeping 23 hours a day. He's not having all the same difficulties that he had before. He did lose his relationship with his fiance, but he said he was completely fine with that. But nonetheless, for about 4 to 6 years, he had a really difficult life, and he could have avoided that if he would have understood that he needed a teacher to help him. So I don't suspect that you guys will ever experience anything like that because you understand you need a teacher. You're not going to just be off somewhere in a corner trying to do this on your own. So if you would like to consider me your teacher, you're more than welcome to do that. But if not, find somebody who you can call, you can talk to, you can send a message to, because at different times in your development, you're going to need help from a teacher. And if you send that person a message and they reply back to you, this is the help that you're going to need, because you can't ask a book questions. It's just not possible. So you're going to need somebody that you can ask questions to and who knows you and understands you a little bit. So you're welcome to reach out to me at any point. Even if I don't hear from you for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you're always welcome to reach out to me, and I'm here to help you. So if you would like to reach out at any point, you're welcome to do that. And oftentimes what students do is they send questions of challenges that they're having. And usually what they get back is, that's normal. Here's the way to deal with that. And then just keep moving on. And that's like really reassuring for them. Whereas if you don't have that kind of relationship with someone, when you reach that problem or that conflict or that challenge, you're not going to have the ability to do that. So that's why you would like to have somebody in your life that you can reach out to for help. So find somebody that you can trust and that you have confidence in, and that you know that is going to be there to help you as you run into various challenges along the way. There's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you might use these different positions at different times for different reasons. I'm going to explain to you the different ways that I've used these positions, and then you decide for yourself how you would like to use them. What I share with you is just information, but you need to independently verify for yourself in what situations do these positions help you. So I'm going to give you some guidance on how they've helped me and the situations that I use them, but don't believe me. You got to try it out for yourself and see for yourself. So the seated position is kind of like the go-to position. This is like the primary position that a lot of people learn in, and they spend a lot of time meditating in the seated position, either on the floor or in a chair or a bench or a wheelchair or something like this. You can really sit however you're comfortable. If you're on the floor, it's usually with some cushions under the rear to kind of soften your seat, kind of lightly bringing your legs together in the cross-leg position. As you guys heard me share before, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, but there's not just one way to do this. You can put your palms on your thighs or your knees. You can put your palms up. You can rest your hands comfortably in your lap. There's not just one way to do it. You find whatever is comfortable for you. It's usually best if your upper body is erect. This helps to keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation. It also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session, you would like your mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. So having the sternum up and the shoulders back will allow you to do that. And you'll see that in the words of the Buddha, where he teaches you to have an upper body that is erect or straight. And that's the reason why, is because it keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. So the seated position is kind of like the go-to position. And you could do it in a chair, you could do it on a bench or a wheelchair. In those situations, people will typically put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles. But you can see I'm in a chair with my legs crossed, so that's an option too. And then just put your arms wherever you like, your hands in your arms with your upper body erect. Okay. But sometimes when you're in the seated position, your body starts having aches and pains. And if this is the case and you need to relax the muscles, that's where the lying position comes in. You can lie on the floor with your face up, right? This, if you've ever done yoga, I think they call this shavasana or resting pose or corpse pose or something like this, where you just lay on your back face up and your arms are out to the side. All the muscles are completely relaxed. And this can be really helpful for you. I've actually even done this one time. I was in a hospital bed. I had an IV hooked up to me and I couldn't cross my legs because I had a motorbike accident. So I just laid there in the bed and meditated in the hospital bed. So you can use it in those situations too. But sometimes when you're in the seated position or the lying position, you could actually fall asleep. You might notice you're getting drowsy and tired, which we'll talk about in a moment. But one of the things that you can do is you can switch to a standing or a walking position, right? If you do a standing position where you just stand up, your arms are down to your side or clasped in front of you or behind you, this will help keep your mind attentive and alert in the standing position. So you might decide to use it for that. I've also used standing position when I was like maybe at a bus stop and I knew the bus wasn't coming for like 15, 20 minutes. And I'd like to just get like a little touch-up meditation. I would just stand there. If there was no seat, I would just stand there and meditate while I was standing. Or like I've been in lines before, like a government line, like getting my driver's license or something. And this line moves like once every 15 minutes or once every 10 minutes. The line moves. And I would just stand there and do like a little 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute meditation. It wasn't one of my 2 or 3 meditations that I considered to be, my main meditations, but it's like a little touch up. So you could use it in those situations too. Where the walking position is helpful is, once again, if you're falling asleep, if you're noticing that in the lying or the seated position, or you're having achy body, you can use walking position. But also if you have an overactive mind, if you have a lot of energy in your mind, and the last thing you're thinking about is sitting down and being still, walking position is really good for that. So I'm going to teach you that tomorrow afternoon as part of our course. You'll learn how to do walking meditation for overactive mind with a lot of energy. So do you guys have any questions on the meditation basics? Anything you would like to ask? Yeah, of course. Remember, those of you guys online, you can ask questions through Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom.
Yes, I want to ask, should my eyes always be closed?
For seated, lying, and standing, you typically close your eyes. For breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation. For walking meditation, you have your eyes open because you're walking. And there's also a meditation called meditation to eliminate sexual cravings. If you use that one, that's a specialized meditation. You usually have your eyes open for that one. There's no harm in having your eyes open, but you'll find that your mind has a tendency to go inward much better when you have your eyes closed, because you're shutting down one of your senses and you're not taking in any contact through the eye. So you'll find it works better, but there's no harm in keeping your eyes open. So I know that it works better with the eyes closed, but remember, don't believe me. Do it for yourself and see. Like, do a week or 2 with your eyes closed, see how that works for your mind. Do it for a week or 2 with your eyes open and see how that works. And then you'll know the difference. Mm-hmm.
You change from one to the other when you think you're getting sleep?
That's okay. I'll repeat it for you. So the question was, can you change within your meditation session? The answer is yes, you can. So there were times where I would like sit down to meditate, and within the first 3 minutes, I noticed my mind was too busy and too active. So I switched to a walking. Or maybe I'm in meditation for 10, 15 minutes. I've noticed there's a lot of aches and pains. I might switch to a lying, right? So you can switch like that. You don't have to strike a pose and then just stick with it. You can change if you need to. That's impermanence. One of the things that you might hear some people talk about is they'll say, when you're feeling pain in meditation, to just breathe through the pain. This is unwise. The Buddha taught us that this is unwise, because if you remember his life story from yesterday, he used to hang himself upside down from trees, lay on beds of nails. He was causing physical pain to the body, and he realized that doesn't produce enlightenment. So if your knees are hurting or your hips are hurting, that's an indication to you, hey, something's wrong, change that. You don't have to breathe through the pain, because if your mind's just experiencing pain, how could you ever eliminate unwholesome qualities and cultivate wholesome qualities like what I was teaching you? So if you ever notice any pain, just change your position. You're not interested in the body being luxurious, but you're not interested in it being painful either. That'll take us into this next topic, where I typically say the mind is the boss and the body is the employee. What I mean by that is you've got to go through the employee in order to get to the boss. And if the employee is real luxurious, not going to take you to go see the boss, too complacent. But also if the employee is painful, not going to take you to go see the boss, right? So you like the body to be comfortable, which is in the middle. And now you can go through the body and you can get to the mind and train the actual mind, which is the boss. Then setting up mindfulness in front of you is something that the Buddha teaches. If you look at his instructions on meditation, he says, before you start meditating, set up mindfulness in front of you. Now you know a little bit more about what mindfulness is, which is awareness of mind. So in other words, what he's teaching you is not to just plop down into meditation and start meditating. You would like to bring some awareness to the mind, awareness to the breath, and that's what's going to help you to be able to ease into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation. So that's why I taught you chanting yesterday. That's what eases the mind down into meditation. So if you use chanting, great, but if there's something else, use something else. You would like to just not plop down into meditation, but kind of ease the mind into meditation. You're going to get more benefit out of it. In terms of your time, frequency, and schedule of meditation, do you think that you will be able to meditate at exactly the same time every day? You shook your head no? Why? Why? Impermanence, right? It's not possible. So if anybody ever says, you have to meditate at exactly the same time every day, you already know that that's not possible, right? Remember, what you're looking to do is get your meditation practice and all your other practice as close to what the Buddha did as possible, because that's what's going to lead to your enlightenment, right? Remember, the Buddha didn't even have a watch. He didn't even have a timepiece, right? Because watches weren't invented 2,500 years ago. So he didn't know what time it was when he was meditating. He meditated 3 times a day, morning, midday, and evening. It says it right in his teachings. So he wouldn't have been able to have a precise timing of exactly when to meditate. So if somebody tells you you have to meditate at 3:30 a.m. every day in order to get to enlightenment, you can know right away that's not true. Because of impermanence. It's just not possible. And the Buddha wouldn't have meditated at 3:30 a.m. every day. So you know that that's not true. And I can assure you that there is nothing going on at 3:30 a.m. that's going to make your meditation any better or any worse, right? So you can meditate at any point during your day. What I recommend is you have anchor points. Morning, midday, and evening. Maybe your morning and evening are your shore meditations that you would like to work on and build up to, or your middle of the day is one that you might get to. Every once in a while, you might be able to get a midday meditation. It just depends on what's going on in your life. What you would like to build up to is a 30 minutes or more. That's what you would like. 30 minutes is like a sweet spot. You don't really need more, but if you would like more, you can. But 30 minutes is the sweet spot. And it's going to take you time to build up to that. And I've been gradually building you guys up to that. Yesterday, when we started off, I think the first day I meditated 15 minutes with you guys, 20 minutes. This morning, we meditated a lot longer. So I've been expanding it a little by little each day so that you guys can work on expanding your meditation. So what you would like to do is get to about a 30-minute mark. And some people take 6 months, a year, even 2 years to get up to that. So it might take you some while. You're not in a race with anyone. You're not in a competition. You don't have to put pressure on yourself, but just gradually build up your meditation practice so that you're 30 minutes of meditation per session. You're not interested in using an alarm if you don't need to. Sometimes people set an alarm and they meditate. There's one of two things that are going to happen. You're either going to be in meditating, and you're going to be thinking, is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? This is like craving. The mind's craving, and you're trying to eliminate that. So if you set an alarm, your mind's just going to be sitting there craving. Or the other thing is you'll be deep in meditation, getting all kinds of benefit. Oh man, I shouldn't have set my alarm. I could have done much more. I could have done longer, right? So if you don't have to, it's best to not set an alarm. But of course, in the mornings, you're on your way to work or something like this, you might only have 15 or 20 minutes to meditate. You might need to set an alarm. So go ahead and do that. But on the weekends or in the evenings when you don't have to set an alarm, no need to set an alarm. The way that you actually know how long you've been meditating is you look at the time when you start meditating. So it's 9 a.m., right? And now you're meditating. And then when you're done, you look again. 9:15. Okay, you've been meditating for 15 minutes. Now you just need to expand that and make it longer and longer as you go, right? So you can check in about once a week on your meditation. I still do this even today. I will check in every once in a while because 5 minutes in meditation can sometimes seem like an hour, but sometimes an hour can seem like 5 minutes too. So you like to just check in and make sure you're kind of within the range that you're working towards, right? And if you're at 27 minutes or 28 minutes, it's okay. You're right there where you need to be. Your enlightenment isn't going to be determined on whether you meditate today or not. Sometimes people put all this pressure on themselves to meditate. Because if you're meditating 2 or 3 times a day, for the entire month, that's about 60 meditations in a month, right? Like 2 times for 30 days, that's about 60 meditations. Well, if you're meditating 52, 54, 55 meditations a month, you're making your way to enlightenment. So enlightenment isn't determined on whether you miss meditation today or not. Your enlightenment is going to be determined whereas if you miss meditation today, what do you do next? Does that become 1 day, 1 week, 1 month that you've missed meditation? Can you consistently meditate over the course of multiple years? And if you can consistently meditate over the course of multiple years, you're going to make your way to enlightenment. And that's what you would ultimately like to be able to do. So don't put a lot of pressure on yourself if you miss a meditation. Because if you're doing 2 per day and you miss 1, well, you've got another one coming up, right? You miss your morning meditation, you realize around lunchtime, oh man, I missed meditation. Going to make sure I get my 1 in this evening, right? So just actively work towards it. You don't have to beat yourself up or feel guilty that you've missed a meditation because you are going to miss some meditations. It's normal, okay? Then in terms of your sleepiness, somebody asked this question yesterday. I think you asked this question, that you're going to notice some sleepiness during meditation. One of the things you can do is switch positions like we talked about, right? Just switch to a different position. If you're in seated or lying position, switch to a standing or a walking position. Another thing you can do, just get some sleep, right? One of the things you're going to notice is when you start training your mind with the teachings of the Buddha, it's going to start performing more optimally. It's going to start performing better, right? And if you haven't really been sleeping so well over the last several years, you might notice you start getting sleepy during meditation because it's kind of like a dry sponge and your mind is finally getting what it needed all these years. And now it's having a tendency to fall asleep, not just during meditation, but even outside of meditation. You might notice you become more sleepy. There's kind of like a 6-month hump that you have to get over, where sometimes people can get very sleepy when they start meditating. But eventually, you've done enough work on your mind and you've got enough pollution out of the mind, you'll get over that hump and the mind will kind of brighten up a bit and you won't notice that sleepiness any longer. So those are your options if you're noticing sleepiness. You might notice physical sensations during your meditation where this is like the body's itching or you feel like you want to scratch or something like that. If you're noticing this, it's best to stay focused on the breath because you're focusing on the breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. So just stay focused on that breath. Know that this itch is impermanent. It's going to arise, it's going to change, and then it's going to fade away. It is impermanent. So just keep focusing on the breath if you can. But in some situations, you might have this overwhelming urge to itch. And it's just like, I just got to itch. If that's the case, go ahead and itch. But if that was like 8 seconds that it took you before you had to hurry up and itch, next time try to make it 12 seconds or 15 seconds or 20 seconds. Just keep expanding it all the way to the point where you can go your entire meditation. You notice there's an itch there. It arises, it changes, and it fades away, and your mind is unaffected by it. That's what you would ultimately like to get to, is where you're unaffected by those kinds of things, that you don't have a craving for the body to be permanently comfortable. Okay? Then you might have visual stimulation during your meditations. What I mean by this is you might see colors like green or purple or yellow or flashing white lights, or you might have like memories that are coming up into your mind because the sight that is occurring is actually occurring inside your brain. People are surprised when their eyes are closed, they can still see because your eye is just bringing in the light, but sight is occurring inside the brain. So this is why you can still see things when your eyes are closed. So sometimes people are wondering what these colors are. You know, sometimes people call me and they say, David, I saw green during my meditation. Does that mean I'm going to get rich and wealthy? Or David, I saw purple. Does that mean my boyfriend or girlfriend is going to come back to me? It doesn't mean any of those things, okay? I'll explain to you what's actually happening here. Your brain is the physical organ that is in the body. It's physical. It's part of the body. Your mind is something completely separate. It is intangible. It's non-physical. You are training your mind, And as you're training your mind, there's an effect to the brain. The physical structures of the brain actually change as you're training your mind. Doctors are showing us this, researchers, scientists, they're using MRIs and CAT scans and things like this to measure these kinds of things now. Because during the lifetime of the Buddha, they couldn't do that. They didn't have the technology. But nowadays, they use the technology to measure those things. And they can see the physical structures of the brain are changing. Well, when you're training your mind and the physical structures of the brain are changing, because sight is happening inside the brain, that's why you're seeing the colors, because things are changing. And this is actually really helpful because doctors are seeing that long-term meditators that are meditating, the physical structures of the brain are changing, and it's changing for the benefit, and it doesn't ever change back. Just like the Buddha taught us that once you train the mind, get to a certain point, it doesn't regress backwards. Your mind is impossible to regress backwards once you get to a certain level of training. And the doctors are confirming this through CAT scans and MRIs of the brain. So that's what's happening, is the physical structures of your brain are actually changing. And no need to figure out what that white or green or yellow or purple is. Then you might have been taught to meditate with external stimulus. What I mean by this is like candles or beads, music, phone apps, things like this. If you're currently using those things, that's fine. That's where you're at now. But ultimately, you would like to get to the point where you're not using those things. You only need 3 things to meditate: the body, the mind, and the breath. You'll have these 3 things with you all the time. If you continue to meditate with a candle, with music, with a phone app, all of these things are impermanent. They're not going to be there permanently. So if you build a meditation practice around these things, then you can't meditate anywhere, anytime. You would like to get to the point where you can meditate anywhere, anytime. So if you're like on a 3-day trekking tour in the mountains of Chiang Mai and you're deep in the jungle and you would like to meditate, hey, body, mind, and breath. I got all 3. Let me meditate. But if you need to have that special candle with you, you can't meditate, right? Or say you're walking in the park and it's a beautiful day and you're walking in the park and it's like, I'd like to sit down and meditate. Hey, body, mind, and breath. I got all 3. Let me just go ahead and meditate. But if you need that special incense or that special cushion or those beads or something like that, you're not going to have those things with you to be able to enjoy your meditation. So just sit down and meditate. Body, mind, and breath. Right? So when you're having these things in your practice, like beads and candles and stuff like this, your mind's attached to it. You're holding on. It's like, I cannot meditate unless I have my candle, unless I have my phone app. I cannot meditate. That's because your mind's attached to it. So you would like to get to the point where you don't need any of that stuff. Right? So if you're using those things now, that's what got you to where you are now. But what you would like to do is slowly start stripping those things out of your practice. So let's just say somebody was used to listening to music while they meditate. What I would suggest they do is they do 1 session with it and 1 session without it. 1 session with it, 1 session without it. And they do this for a week or 2 and let your mind adjust to that. And now you do 1 session with it, 2 or 3 without. 1 session with it, 2 or 3 without. Let your mind adjust to that for a week or 2. Then do 1 session with it, 3, 4, 5, 6 without it. Right? You gradually do this because your mind craves permanence. Remember from the Four Noble Truths, it's holding on, it's craving permanence. So when you start making changes like this, your mind doesn't typically like it. So you would like to kind of gradually, incrementally, small little changes to the point where your mind doesn't even notice what you're doing. You can do this whenever you're getting rid of a unwholesome thing. Like say that I was smoking cigarettes and I was interested in getting rid of them. If I was smoking 20 cigarettes a day, I would go down to 18 for like a week or 2. Then once I get adjusted to that, I would go down to 15 for a week or 2. Then I go down to 12 and so forth and so on. And this is a more sustainable change that your mind and your body can get adjusted to. And you'll be able to do this long term. And not only can you do this with unwholesome things, you can do it with wholesome things as well. Like say I was interested in maybe eating a plant-based food supply and getting away from meat. I could gradually increase the amount of plant-based food that I'm eating. Like if I right now, let's just say I was eating all meat, I could go maybe one day I eat meat, one day I eat plants, one day I eat meat, one day I eat plants, or one meal I eat meat, one meal I eat plants, right? Because I need to find new restaurants, new recipes, new suppliers for food. That's all going to take time. You can't just snap your fingers and instantly switch to something like plant-based food. Plus, your body and your mind is so used to this meat, it's going to have a hard time letting it go. So you can do this gradually. So whenever you're getting rid of an unwholesome thing, you can do it gradually. And whenever you're getting to more and more wholesomeness, you can do that gradually too. And your mind will really appreciate that. Okay, so any questions on starting and conducting a meditation session? Remember, for all you guys online, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Okay, so no questions. All right, so now here's some words of the Buddha on meditation. Okay, these are the 4 meditations that the Buddha taught. And you can see in his own words what he was actually teaching here, because oftentimes people nowadays are teaching hundreds of different meditations, but it's only these 4 that the Buddha ever taught, and this is all you would ever need. You don't need 100 different meditations. And if you tried to spread yourself that thin, you wouldn't have really any depth in your meditation practice. But by focusing on just what you need, then you can get really deep into that practice and master it. Whereas if you were trying to learn 50 or 100 different meditations, you wouldn't be able to be proficient in all of those. But everybody's going to need 2 meditations, and then the other 2 are specialized meditations. So here's the words of the Buddha, where he's introducing the 4 meditations that he taught. Prior to this, he was talking to his students, and he was explaining them about 5 different things that he suggested for them to improve about their life in order to get to enlightenment. So he says, having based himself on these 5 things, meaning those 5 things that he was just talking about, the monk should develop further another 4 things. 1, the perception of unattractiveness of the body should be developed to abandon lust. This is a meditation to eliminate sexual cravings. The loving kindness should be developed to abandon ill will. This is loving kindness meditation to eliminate anger, hatred, and ill will from the mind. Mindfulness of breathing mindfulness meditation should be developed to cut off thoughts. Right? So that's the one that we're focusing on in this class, where you're cutting off and cutting off and cutting off. Because the number one problem that the mind is having is it's holding on with craving and clinging. It doesn't want to let go. So that's why you're training your mind to let go. So you're not training your mind to eliminate your thoughts. You're training the mind to let go, let go, let go. Then he says the perception of impermanence should be developed to eradicate the conceit I am. When one perceives impermanence, the perception of non-self is stabilized. One who perceives non-self eradicates the conceit I am, which is nibbana, or enlightenment, in this very life. So this is a meditation to realize non-self. Okay, so this is a specialized meditation that you learn later. Just like the meditation to eliminate sexual cravings, these are specialized meditations that not everyone needs, but everyone's going to need breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation. What I've done here is I've taken each of the meditations and I'm showing you the unwholesome quality that you're eliminating and the wholesome quality that you're cultivating, or the wholesome qualities, right? Because remember, meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So with breathing mindfulness meditation, you're eliminating craving, desire, attachment, where the mind's holding on. You're training the mind to let go, let go, let go. So if 10, 15, 20 times during your meditation, you have to let go, this is really good for you, because that's not what your mind wants to do. That's why it's getting angry and frustrated, because it's holding on to something. It doesn't want to let go. So you're working to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. Then you're cultivating the wholesome qualities of mindfulness, or awareness of mind, and concentration. By focusing on the breath, when your mind moves off the breath, when you notice that movement, that's your mindfulness. That's your awareness of mind. When you let that go, that's you eliminating the craving, desire, attachment. When you bring your mind back to the breath, that's you practicing singleness of mind, or concentration, right? Because now you can be focused on the breath, practicing singleness of mind. So this is the meditation that we're focused on in this particular course. But these others are ones that you will learn if you continue to learn with me in the various courses and retreats. Okay, so here's some more from the Buddha on meditation. He says, A pot without a stand is easy to tip over. A pot without a stand is easy to tip over. The pot is your mind. The stand is your meditation practice. A mind without a meditation practice is easy to become discontent, right? Because you don't have a stable mind, right? So this pot that you've got, you need to stabilize it with a meditation practice. So the more you meditate, it's like making your meditation practice wider and wider and wider. It's making your stand wider and wider and wider. If you haven't been meditating much, right now you might just have like a little dowel rod and your pot is kind of teeter-tottering on that, and it's really easy for you to become angry, irritated, or frustrated. But the more you meditate, it's like growing that stand and making your stand wider and wider and wider. Then here's some more from the Buddha where he talks about the importance and the purpose of breathing mindfulness meditation. He says, monks, there is one thing that when developed and cultivated leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge, experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. What is that one thing? Mindfulness of breathing, breathing mindfulness meditation. This is that one thing that when developed and cultivated leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge or experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. So he's saying there's one goal for this meditation, and that's to get you to enlightenment. That's the only purpose of this meditation, is to help you get to that freedom of strong feelings, to enlightenment. He's not saying you only need one thing in order to get to enlightenment. Otherwise, he would have just taught meditation and that's it. We wouldn't have 45 volumes of books that are this thick that explain what he actually taught. He's kind of like saying your car, it leads to one thing, which is transportation. That's what your car leads to, is it leads to transportation. That's the goal of your car. But you need other things besides transportation in your life in order to be successful and live a healthy life. You need more than just transportation, right? So that's what he's saying here is this meditation, it leads to one goal. It has one outcome, which is getting you to enlightenment and freedom from strong feelings. But you need more than just meditation. So in terms of conducting your meditation session, what you'd like to do is focus on the breath, either the sound coming in or the sensation of air moving over the nose. And while your mind's focused on that breath, anytime it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back. Okay? When you're first starting to meditate, you might notice a bombardment of thoughts, lots and lots of thoughts, like thought. This is very common when you first get started. Or you might have a thought. You might indulge in that thought. You might follow that thought. You might look at it for a while. 2 or 3 minutes down the road, it's like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back, right? So these are common things. If you're doing these things, no worries. That's where you're at now. Just work on sooner and sooner. Notice that your mind is moved off the breath and more easily bring it back to the breath. So the goal of this meditation is not to eliminate your thoughts. That's not the goal of this meditation. You will have thoughts. Even an enlightened being has thoughts during their meditation. But the difference is that the unenlightened being is going to have a bombardment of thoughts, or they're going to indulge in their thoughts. An enlightened being is going to notice their thought right away and cut it off and let it go and bring it back to the breath. And then they're going to have a period of time where the mind is quieted and stilled, right? So if you're noticing that you're having thoughts during meditation, that's not a problem. Just notice it sooner and sooner and cut it off and let it go easier and easier. You're not going to eliminate your thoughts. It's just that you would like to be able to control your mind and have discipline of your mind, that when there is a thought, to be able to let it go. So that now in day-to-day life, when you're meditating, you're cutting off anything and everything that comes up, whether it's wholesome or unwholesome. When you're in the gym, you're meditating and training your mind in one particular way. You're cutting off everything and anything that's coming up. But then in daily life, you're only cutting off the unwholesome thoughts that are coming up, right? It's just like a professional athlete. If I was a professional pole vaulter, I would go into the gym. I would do weight training, agility training, cardiovascular training. This looks very different than my sport. When I go out onto the field, I'm doing pole vaulting. It looks very different than my training. So it's the same thing. You train your mind to cut off anything and everything. So in your meditation, if you have any thoughts whatsoever, you cut it off. But in daily life, if you're thinking about punching your boss in the face, cut that off and let it go, right? You know it's going to lead to unwholesome results. Don't allow your mind to keep thinking that way. Cut that off. That's an unwholesome thought. But if you're thinking about taking your mom out to dinner or take your mom out to lunch, you don't have to cut that off. Go forward with that, right? Go forward. You're thinking about getting a new job? No worries. Go forward with that. You don't have to cut that off. So you're training in one way in meditation, and then outside of meditation, you're only cutting off the unwholesome thoughts. Okay, so any questions on this? No? Okay. So I'll just end with this, and then I'll invite you guys to do a meditation session if you'd like. The Buddha shares this. He says, meditate, monks. Do not be complacent, lest you regret it later. This is my instructions to you. Right? So what he's saying is if you're complacent in your meditation practice, you're going to regret it later. This is the only thing you'll ever get from the Buddha, where he's kind of like, all right, go do something. Because remember, the Buddha's not trying to convince you of anything. He's not guilt shaming and fearing you into anything. He's just helping you understand what it took for him to get to enlightenment. So if you're complacent in your meditation practice, you're going to regret it later. Meaning when you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're agitated, when you're annoyed, when you're feeling lonely and bored, you're going to regret having not meditated. So he's guiding you to not be complacent, to apply effort and energy towards developing a meditation practice. One of the ways that I would add to this is I would say never give up. Don't ever give up on your meditation practice, even if you go weeks or two, or even years. I went one time 3 years without meditating. It was the worst 3 years of my life, probably, but I went 3 years without meditating one time, but I never gave up. I got back into it. If you give up on your meditation practice, you're like resigning yourself to being angry and frustrated the rest of your life, right? It's just like, I'm just going to be stressed the rest of my life. I'm going to feel guilty and shameful the rest of my life. Or, I'm going to be lonely and bored for the rest of my life. Don't give up on your meditation practice, because that's what's going to help you, along with all the other teachings. So I encourage you to never give up on your meditation practice. Okay? All right. So I see some more people have come into our online. So if you guys have questions, just let me know. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite you guys to do meditation if you like. It's basically 2:00. So we have some time here that if you'd like to do some meditation, I'm going to start with the chanting to ease into it. You need a bathroom break? Yeah, do whatever you'd like to do. If you guys like to move around, make yourself comfortable. Sometimes we take a little bathroom break since we just got back from lunch. You guys good? No bathroom break? Okay. You're going to use the restroom? Okay, we'll wait for you. All right, guys, so those of you online, if you'd like to meditate with us, we're going to start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. Then I'm going to give you some guidance during the meditation. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're all meditating together, all of us here and those of you online. And then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. If you'd like to see these chants, you can get them on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. By going to that website, you can click on free books. It's buddhadailywisdom.com. And then down towards the bottom of the free books, you'll see the chanting sheet. We have them here printed out for our students, but you guys online, if you would like to chant along, you're more than welcome to do that. Okay. Good afternoon, sir. How are you? Where are you from? From China? Oh, okay. Nice. Nice to meet you. Yeah. Welcome to our class. If you'd like to spend some time here, you're more than welcome to. Yeah. Okay, so we've got everyone back in the classroom now. So as I mentioned, I'm going to chant on the way in. You guys are welcome to join, and then I'll come in with some guidance. Okay? Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa พุตังมหาควันนังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาควัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาควัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะกะวาพุทธังมะกะวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมะกะวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมะกะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะกะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. All right. Do you guys have any questions on meditation at all? Anything you guys would like to ask? Yeah, of course you have a question. You always have questions.
Realize, so this time I sit by the wall to make my back, because I always feel pain in my back after a few minutes. So I relax against the wall, hoping that I won't feel so much pain on my back. But this time I feel, how is it, really just kind of lazy, let go. I'm not sure if this is a good feeling.
Yeah, oftentimes when the body is more comfortable, it gets that way. I don't know if you guys heard, I kind of fell asleep because I was laying down on the floor. I started snoring a little bit. So this can happen, that the mind kind of like isn't as attentive and isn't as alert. But if you need a little bit of back support, you know, that's normal. Like when I sit here and meditate, I have a little bit of back support, but I don't completely rest up against the wall. I just have a little bit of support there for the lower back so that the upper body is still supported with the body itself, with the muscles in the body, because that's what's going to help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. So there's no harm in using some support if that's what you need. Over time, your muscles will get a little bit stronger, but you might still need a little bit of support. So just use a little bit of support where you just barely touch the wall, but you're not fully engrossed in the wall, completely resting up against it. That should help you. You're welcome. Okay, let's see if we have any questions online. Take a look. Hello. I see some people there in line saying hello. Okay. Well, I don't see any questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do is just in class by letting you guys know what we're going to be doing tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be starting off with meditation in the morning, chanting and meditation just like we do each morning. I'm going to provide you a talk on the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots, where today you learned about the 4 noble truths, about craving, desire, attachment, but there's more that's going on in your mind than just craving, desire, attachment. There's other issues as well. So we're going to talk about this and kind of broaden your understanding and deepen your understanding. And I'm going to provide you some solutions from things that you saw today that are going to help you understand how to eradicate these 3 poisons or these 3 unwholesome roots from the mind. Then we're going to take our mid-morning break. I'm going to teach you the 5 precepts. That's what plugs into the Eightfold Path, giving you more illuminating language around your moral conduct and wise decision making. Then after our lunch, we're going to come back and I'm going to teach you walking meditation. This is really good if the mind is overactive or too much energy in the mind and you just or you're falling asleep. You can do walking meditation instead. So this is going to be an option for you guys, kind of expanding your tool belt a bit. Okay, so thank you guys for your questions. Thank you for your interest in learning. And if you're here tomorrow, then you'll be able to learn some more. Okay, have a lovely rest of your day. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap.